evening and welcome to the 615th episode of Travelwitch. I'm Dan Schlossberg and we are in the 14th season of Travelwitch Radio, the show that lets you enjoy the pleasures of travel from the comfort of your armchair. Every week at this time, we talk to people representing destinations, hotels, airlines, railroads, car rental companies, and others in the world of travel and hospitalities, from authors and bloggers to broadcasters and publicists. If it's got anything to do with travel, it's got everything to do with Travelwitch. Our guest today is Haley Mack, Public Relations Manager for the Wyoming Office of Tourism. Welcome, Haley, to the new video version of Travelwitch Radio.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
And just to signal that we're off, Wyoming is known for its cowboy culture, wide open spaces, and charming western towns. We know it's nicknamed the Cowboy State because of its rodeos, dude ranches, and world-famous western wear. But tell us, is all that Wild West history true, or is it just Hollywood?
You know, Hollywood always gives it a little bit of that dramatic effect. But yes, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we have a very rich old Western history here with, shootouts at the saloons and cowboys in boots and chaps on horseback riding through town. And actually at some of our old historic saloons throughout the state, you can see actual bullet holes from when there may have been a little bit of dispute back in the day. So a lot of rich history in the Old West, absolutely.
Do most Wyoming travelers come for the history or for the outdoor recreation? And tell us, please, how that recreation changes as the seasons change.
Yeah, I mean, people come to Wyoming for a mix of things, which is really great. Yes, of course, to see the wildlife like this moose here. And even if it's just to experience one thing, like a more niche experience, like wildlife watching or coming out to ski and experience our great ski slopes here, they're also exploring other places in the area that they're visiting, like our local restaurants and shops and local events and whatnot. In terms of the seasons changing and outdoor recreation, in the winter, obviously, people come here for all the snow that we get here and to experience all of that. So, downhill skiing, cross country, Nordic skiing, snowshoeing, things like that. In the fall, we have really great leaf peeping here around the state. We have beautiful golden aspens in the state, exactly like this beautiful picture right here. And in the spring, we have short springs here, but and that's kind of more of like our transitional period. So you never know, you could be snowshoeing one day and then the next there's no snow and you're lacing up your, hiking boots to go out and hike like you usually would. But summer, super popular time to visit. It's great for hiking, biking, fishing is super popular as well. Whitewater rafting or rock climbing if you're into it. So there's just a ton of different experiences that you can have no matter what time of year in Wyoming.
And many visitors like to stay on ranches. Do they vary from basic and rustic to a la carte to a high-end all-inclusive stay?
Absolutely. We have dozens of ranches across the state that vary in really just what you're looking to experience. I think that cowboy culture right now is a really big trend. And, those Western kind of TV shows out there like Yellowstone, especially, is helped with that popularity of that. But people really want to get out and experience the amazing guest ranches and dude ranches that we have throughout the state. And we have so many that depending on what type of experience you're looking for, whether you're looking for more of that hands-on, get your boots dirty kind of thing, help out around the ranch, or you're looking to maybe kick your feet back a little bit. And we even have a ranch in the state that has its own airport and ski resort. So there's all types of ranches in Wyoming for every visitor.
Are some of them working ranches where guests can pitch in, feeding the animals, cooking, riding, roping, and even being actual ranch hands?
Yeah, and kind of going off that cowboy culture trend, those skillcation vacations are huge right now as well. And we have tons of working ranches around the state where you can act like an actual ranch hand for a week or a few days and whatnot, and actually help tend to the horses and the cattle and other livestock on the property, and do some roping and all of that. So we absolutely have working ranches, and Wyoming is home to Eaton's Ranch, which is a working ranch, and it is the oldest dude ranch in the entire U.S.
Wow. Well, before we got on the air, we talked about Devil's Tower, and there are a number of anniversaries connected to it. So please tell us.
Yes. Yeah, so next year it'll be Devil's Tower National Monument, which is the first national monument, actually. So we're proud to have it in Wyoming. It'll be its 120th anniversary since it became the first national monument. And then the year following, in 2027, in the iconic Close Encounters of the Third Kind film, Devil's Tower really stood out in that one. As an iconic landmark, and it'll be celebrating its 50th anniversary of that film in 27. So lots of exciting things on that front.
And Yellowstone actually spans several different states. How much of it is in Wyoming?
Actually, almost all of Yellowstone National Park is in Wyoming. I like to say if you've been to Yellowstone, you've been to Wyoming. There's a lot of times I'll be in conversation and people aren't really sure whether or not they've been to Wyoming, but about 96% actually of Yellowstone National Park is located in the cowboy state of Wyoming.
And we're talking with Haley Mack, PR manager for the Wyoming Office of Tourism. Haley, is Wyoming the best place to experience cowboy culture, and where in Wyoming? Or everywhere?
I'm pretty much all four corners of the state. There's so many different ways that you can experience our amazing Western cowboy culture here. In addition to, maybe staying at a ranch, as we just kind of talked about, seeing a rodeo is the perfect way for a visitor to really come and experience more of that cowboy Western culture that you can find in Wyoming.
And I personally love being in a planetarium, and Wyoming is a natural one. Since Wyoming is the least populated of the 50 states, isn't it also the best place for viewing the night sky?
I would like to think so, yes. I mean, we have just under 600,000 people in the entire state, and Wyoming is also within the top 10 for the largest size states in the U.S. as well. So lots of room to roam, and it also means minimal light pollution as well. So there's really a lot of great stargazing opportunities around the state.
And we here at Travel Itch have heard that Sinks Canyon is an international dark sky park, the first in the state. How can visitors make the most of a visit there?
Yeah, I love Sinks Canyon. It's one of our beautiful 12 state parks. It's out in central Wyoming, and it was the first international dark sky certified park in the state, which we're super happy about. That happened about a couple of years ago now, but we're still, of course, super excited about it. One of the must-sees in Sinks Canyon, and I'll never get over this phenomenon, but you can actually see and even make it like a roadside stop as well. What's called you'd never guess Sinks. It's called Sinks Canyon State Park and the Rise. And so the river actually flows down into a cave and disappears in this cave underground for roughly 2 hours, and then pops back up a quarter mile away at what's called the Rise. And as I said, they're roadside stops, and it's really cool to just see this river disappear. And then you can kind of see little bubbles coming up at the Rise. And there's also huge trout there and little feeders. So you can, get a quarter and feed these giant trout. And I actually was just out there the last week and looking at the trout. I don't think I've ever seen trout that big in my life. So they're definitely very well fed there. But in addition to that, there's a lot of just, typical outdoor recreation activities, being surrounded by the beautiful canyons, and there's a campground there, and you can also stay overnight in a yurt in Sinks Canyon State Park as well. So lots to see and do there, and of course, all while taking in the stars.
And we have to mention Teton County, home of the famous Jackson Hole ski resort town, just became the world's first international dark sky county. Please share.
Yeah, it just happened a couple of months ago. Teton County, as you mentioned, home to the famous Jackson Hole, very popular for its ski resorts. It was the first county in the world to become a certified county by the International Dark Sky Organization. And we find this kind of interesting here at the Office of Tourism and around the state as well. But the Jackson Hole Airport is actually also the first airport to ever fall into that dark sky certification as well. So we're really excited about that one. It's, of course, beautiful backdrop, having the Tetons and, of course, the thousands of stars that you can see in the night sky.
Okay, isn't it true that anywhere in Wyoming is perfect for viewing the skies on a clear night, mostly because of the elevation and unpolluted air, also because of the limited light pollution, as you mentioned?
Mm-hmm.
The points are used in the planetarium, right?
Yeah, exactly. On a clear night, you can definitely see a lot of stars anywhere around Wyoming. I mean, I'm in Cheyenne right now, which is our capital city and also our biggest city, and we only have, I think it's just over 60,000 people in the whole city. So this is our what we call our big city, and I can definitely make out the stars in my backyard a lot better than you may experience in a larger city. But I would highly recommend to see the stars and the night sky at its full potential in Wyoming. Even just get 15-ish minutes outside of the city and you'll see stars like never before.
And is winter the best time to enjoy the dark skies? And are there specific tours built around that concept?
Yeah, I mean, Wyoming is, as we mentioned, the least populated state, but you know, we have our crowds come through, especially to see the national parks and whatnot. In winter, not as much, so there's a little bit less crowds. So, I mean, really, any time of year that you find yourself in Wyoming, it's great for stargazing. But if you want to kind of experience that maybe in one of the national parks without the crowds a little bit, I would recommend coming in the winter. And actually, in Yellowstone National Park, there's a specific tour designed for going out and seeing the stars while also having the great view of the many geysers in Yellowstone as well. So it's a kind of a surreal experience.
Since winter is certainly cold in your state, we have to talk about warming up in the hot springs. Saratoga and Thermopolis, for example, have free to soak hot springs bathhouses. Of course, there are others too in Thermopolis and Jackson Hole that do charge admission. How much does it usually cost and how long do people stay there?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, we have a couple of free what we call bathhouses in the state where you can go soak in Hot Springs State Park in Thermopolis and also over in Saratoga, Wyoming, near the south border of Wyoming. But yes, we have a few hot springs around the state, and some of them do charge admission, but I would like to think it's relatively affordable. I mean, the price can vary anywhere from 8 to I think maxing out at $30. And I'd say most people spend about an hour there, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. But they're
Is it
definitely,
co-ed? Co-ed?
yep. hmm Yeah,
Okay.
anyone can come and experience our hot springs, and we have a lot of them to offer with obviously surrounded by amazing views.
That sounds great. I want to tell our viewers this is Travelich with Dan Schlossberg. We are in our 14th season, live at 5 New York time every Thursday on LinkedIn, YouTube, WhatsApp, X, and Facebook, among others. And we're talking with Haley Mack, PR manager for the Wyoming Office of Tourism. Haley, with the winter holidays approaching, tell our viewers about family vacations in Wyoming. Aren't many of the towns decked out with lights combined with their year-round western charm, not to mention a constant white blanket of snow?
Yes, and I know as we were just talking before we jumped on here, winter is quickly approaching here, and those temperatures are getting a little bit lower here, so the snow is just right on the brink of coming into the picture, especially because we're, as you mentioned earlier, at a higher elevation here, so we do historically get quite a bit of snow, which is great for, you know, ringing in the holidays. And yeah, absolutely, our communities really just come together and just become even more vibrant with being decked out for the holidays with the beautiful Christmas lights and things like wreaths. And it's just such a joyous time of year, and our communities really kind of go all out for that season.
Well, downhill skiing is big business in Jackson Hole, but how about cross country and snowshoeing? Are there lots of groomed trails for every age and every ability?
Yeah. For those who maybe aren't as interested in that downhill type of skiing, that it's maybe a little bit too extreme for some. We absolutely have, those cross country, aka Nordic skiing and snowshoeing. We also have outfitters in almost all of our communities around the state where you can rent skis and snowshoes as well. So very accessible. And there's a lot of groomed trails around the state that you can go cross country skiing or snowshoeing. And one of my personal favorites that's a little bit closer to me is the Snowy Range ski area. It's absolutely gorgeous area, taking the beautiful snowy mountains. And another one kind of more in the central part of the state, just about an hour-ish south of Jackson Hole, is near Pinedale, Wyoming. They have really great groomed trails out there as well, and the beautiful Bridger-Teton National Forest and the Wind River Mountain Range. And then another special mention is Bear River State Park in Evanston as well. You can snowshoe, cross-country ski right along the beautiful Bear River right there. So.
Let's hear about the special events for the holidays. We know Cheyenne hosts Old West Holidays, but what does that include?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, I'm in Cheyenne, so I absolutely love when they deck out the town for the holidays. And it starts, I believe, the day just right after Thanksgiving. So, it kicks off with really decorating the downtown. And of course, there's a annual Christmas parade as well. And, you can meet Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus, and that goes on all throughout the holiday season, leading up till Christmas. And actually, one of my favorite parts that I always make sure to mention when I talk about this is there's actually a Pony Express rider. So the kids can write letters to Santa in the downtown, drop them in a mailbox there. And then a cowboy on horseback, this is like the most Wyoming thing, right, can come pick up these letters, and you'll see him trotting all the way to the post office to deliver these handwritten letters from the kids to send to Santa. So super special.
And it probably gets there faster than the regular mailman does.
It might, yeah, absolutely.
Have you been to Casper's Christmas parade? And don't they have ice skating under the lights downtown?
Yes. So that will be on December 6th this year. And this year's theme, I just found this out, is the Unmask of the Magic, a superhero Christmas. So the the characters and the floats and everything will be hero themed this year. So fun for the little kids and the whole family. And you can go downtown and go to the coffee shops and get some hot chocolate to warm up in the snowy weather, most likely, and then stand along the side of the streets and watch the parade. And after that concludes, you can head over to David Street Station, and they have ice skating there under the lights. So very magical Christmas out in the mountain town of Casper.
Is Yellowstone open in the winter, and is it possible to ride the snow coach into the park and stay overnight surrounded by hot springs and geysers without the crowds of summer?
100%. And I don't think a lot of people know that, actually. I mean, Yellowstone and that area of the state gets a lot of snow. So while it's not accessible, like, you usually could access it in the summertime by car, they have these specially built vehicles that are equipped for the snow. They do only go about 25 miles an hour, so you're in for a little trek on your way, but it kind of doubles up also as a free tour as well. So, you'll see bison on the way to the park and see some beautiful scenic landscapes, and your driver will kind of double up as your tour on the way into the park. And you can take a snow coach through the South Gate, through the Jackson Hole area, and then also through the East Gate near Cody, Wyoming. You can take snowmobiles into Yellowstone. So, but yeah, absolutely. It's a very special time of year, and it's just such a surreal kind of out of this world experience that you can have visiting Yellowstone in the winter.
And you mentioned earlier that Wyoming is big on rodeos, but is that all year long or only during the during the warm weather months?
Yes, so Wyoming, we're called the Cowboy State. So, of course, we have rodeo in practically every community around the state. One of the bigger ones in Cheyenne, I'll give a special mention to just because I'm here, is Cheyenne Frontier Days. It's actually the world's largest outdoor rodeo and Western celebration, and it's a week and a half long. And yeah, so that's a big one that people come out for. And in Cody, Wyoming, as I just mentioned, for the snowmobiling into Yellowstone, you can actually go to a rodeo every single night in the summer. They have rodeo every single night. It's kind of crazy. I don't know how they pull that off, but yeah. And in the winter time, when that comes around, the rodeos don't necessarily stop, but we do take a special twist on them in the winter. A lot of our communities have winter festivals, and one of the big events and sports that you can watch in that is ski joring. If you've never heard of it, it's essentially where a cowboy rides on horseback, and pulled behind him on a rope is a contestant on skis being pulled through an obstacle course. And even like in Sundance, Wyoming, which is near Devil's Tower National Monument, they host it right on their main street. They just take big truckloads full of snow and dump it on their main street, create these obstacle courses, and the town all comes together for it. And it's such a magical winter experience. So rodeo does not stop in the winter. We definitely found a way to make it come around.
And if 96% of Yellowstone is in Wyoming, that means you have buffalo too, and all kinds of other animals, right?
Yes, Yellowstone has one of the highest concentration of wildlife, I believe, in North America. So there's tons of wildlife to see in there, and of course, like our bighorn sheep and bears and wolves, and lots of amazing opportunities to see wildlife in the parks. And Grand Teton too. That's just right below Yellowstone. I always recommend, if people are wanting to get the best wildlife viewing experience, to wake up super early, right before it's about to get bright out, and then head out to the parks, or go out and explore the parks, or later at dusk, so later in the day. Great times to view wildlife. But you can see wildlife really anywhere around the state. You can see moose in Yellowstone and Grand Teton as well. They're very well known for it, but also the Bighorn Mountains up north, near Sheridan and Grable, Wyoming. You can see a lot of moose in that mountain range, and also in the Snowy Range and Vidavoo, which lives between Cheyenne and Laramie. So, and then also, just as you're driving around the state, anywhere you go, you can see antelope or pronghorn. We like to call them antelope here, but they're technically pronghorn. Anywhere around the state, and you'll just see them out in open fields and stuff. And Devil's Tower, there are a lot of prairie dogs there, so you'll just see like hundreds of them as you're driving in and out of the park. So yeah, lots of amazing wildlife viewing opportunities here in Wyoming.
Isn't Wyoming also known for gorgeous vistas, chuck wagon cookouts, fly fishing excursions, and even overnights in yurts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have so many, obviously amazing outdoor recreation opportunities as well, and beautiful sweeping landscapes in the state. We have quite a few mountain ranges in the state, and, beautiful wide open spaces as well, and several national forests as well. So definitely gorgeous vistas, as you mentioned, and the chuck wagon cookouts. Yeah, so there's actually a Smithsonian affiliated museum, actually 5 museums in one, is what it's referred to, is the Buffalo Bill Center of the West up in Cody, Wyoming. They have chuck wagon dinners out in the kind of front yard all throughout the summer as well. And then Cheyenne Frontier Days, which we had just talked about, they have a great chuck wagon dinner there as well. Out in Casper, you can have a chuck wagon dinner that actually is, they take you out in a covered wagon on the actual trail ruts of the Oregon Trail. And you can go out in the middle of nowhere right next to the actual Oregon Trail ruts and have a cookout dinner there as well. We have really great fly fishing in the state. Blue Ribbon Streams, and there's plenty of outfitters around the state and guides that can take you out on these waters, and you're sure to catch some trout. It's world renowned for its fly fishing and trout fishing, Wyoming, and also overnights in yurts. There's a place near Evanston, Wyoming, which is where the Bear River State Park, as we had talked about earlier. There's yurts that you can stay overnight in there. And then also Sinks Canyon State Park, as we had also talked about earlier, you can stay overnight in yurts and watch the stars from your porch there. So
Just had to do that.
I love the sound effects. They're so
For a
fun.
rookie fisherman like me, since you mentioned fishing a minute ago, are there lessons available for professional wranglers? We hear that trout fishing is fantastic, some of the best in the whole country. And you said the trout is probably the largest in the whole country.
Yeah, I would say, especially in like Sinks Canyon, they're very well fed there, but they're a little bit contained in that pond. But in terms of our blue ribbon streams, we have several of those around the state. And if you don't know what that means, it means that there's more than 600 pounds of trout per mile, which is kind of crazy to think about. So absolutely, people come from all over to come trout fishing out here and fly fishing. So if you've never been, I highly recommend it. Some great places are the Bighorn River and also the North Platte River. So kind of, near the Casper area, even leading down into Saratoga, Wyoming as well. So lots of great opportunities for trout fishing. And as you mentioned, you may not be the best of fishermen, but you might leave Wyoming being a really great one. We have a lot of really great professional anglers around the state who will take you out, teach you how to fly fish, even if you've never been fishing before. So a lot of great opportunities for fishing in Wyoming.
Anytime I've tried fishing, I usually just caught a cold.
I've definitely been there too. I feel like as I get older, I grew up fishing and not fly fishing necessarily, but I feel like the older I get, the worse I get at fishing, which is kind of surprising, but I'm right there with you.
Okay, we're talking with Haley Mack, PR manager for the Wyoming Office of Tourism. Haley, how do most visitors get to Wyoming? Car, train, or plane? And where are the major air gateways?
I think that's a really important question. As we talked about, Wyoming is a little bit sparse in terms of population. So it's a highly traveled or primarily road tripping state, but you can absolutely fly into the state. We have several regional airports across the state and places like Cheyenne, Gillette, Riverton, Rock Springs, Sheridan, Cody. And in addition to that, back to that really quick. All of those regional airports have direct connections through Denver International Airport, which is one of the largest airports in the world. So you can easily access Wyoming that way as well. But if you're flying more into the Jackson Hole area, wanting to go into our national parks, Jackson Hole actually flies into several airports across the country. And just this winter, actually, if you're looking at skiing, if you're in the Washington, D.C. area, they actually just added in a flight to and from Jackson Hole there. And then also coming in summer of 2026, they're adding, and this is a big one, a flight to and from New York's LaGuardia. So really big news out of Jackson Hole Airport there.
Oh, that's terrific. How long is the typical stay in Wyoming, and what are the peak and bargain seasons?
Yeah, so the typical stay is roughly 3 days. And summer is, of course, our peak season. But if you're looking more in like the northwest corner of the state, coming out to go skiing in Jackson Hole and experiencing that, beautiful hallmark town, as I like to think of it, winter is a super popular time, especially for that area. The bargain seasons are, of course, going to be our shoulder seasons. So that would be more of like our spring and fall, in which are, of course, obviously beautiful times to visit the state as well. And there might not be as many crowds on top of that.
And great fall foliage.
I know, it's so beautiful. I think we got a frost last week and it just started falling from the trees, but it's so gorgeous. I always love this time of year.
In closing, would you say a trip to Wyoming is akin to experiencing the most authentic version of the old and new West?
Yeah, I mean, Wyoming is, as I mentioned, the cowboy state, and I like to think that you can have the most authentic Western experience in Wyoming. I mean, we have dozens of guests and dude ranches that you can come and experience, and rodeos, like I said, like all time of year pretty much. And so yes, absolutely, if you're wanting to have that authentic Western experience, Wyoming is absolutely the place to have that experience.
And Wyoming has given the world many famous people, including Dick and Liz Cheney, sportscaster Kurt Gowdy, many others. Would you tell us about some of the famous personalities with Wyoming roots?
Yeah, this is such a fun question. And actually, Kurt Gowdy, there's a state park near Cheyenne that is named after Kurt Gowdy that I always love going hiking out at, and has great fishing as well. But there is a handful of famous people that have Wyoming roots. The country singers Chancey Williams and Chris Ledoux were born and raised in Wyoming. And then also more on kind of like the sports front there, Josh Allen also played for the University of Wyoming and graduated from there back in 2017. He actually just came back a little bit ago to be inducted to the Hall of Fame there. So really exciting. And then also kind of in Josh Allen's neck of the woods as well, Brandon Nimmo plays baseball, so a little bit different, but still kind of in the sports realm. He's a left fielder for the New York Mets. He was born and raised in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So yes, we have a lot of famous ties to Wyoming.
And Brandon Nimmo's personality is so sunny that he's often nicknamed the happiest man in baseball.
I have never heard that. That is a great fun fact.
The New York broadcasters call him the happiest man in baseball.
Oh, well, we'll definitely say that Wyoming has to do with some of that, his roots being from Wyoming.
Yeah, and I've interviewed him. He's very nice, very sensitive, very articulate.
We were fortunate enough, some of us from our office, to actually meet with him just last year. And he is, absolutely. He's a very sweet man. So we were very fortunate to have that experience and chat with him before he hopped on the field.
Is there anything I haven't asked you, Haley, that you would like to add?
Honestly, I could probably go on and on about Wyoming all day, but I won't talk your ear off anymore. But I'd recommend anyone who's interested in learning more about Wyoming or wants to get started planning their next visit to Wyoming to visit travelwyoming.com. We have a lot of great, well-curated itineraries on there and just resources as you look to planning your next Wyoming vacation.
Well, that was great. Our guest today on Travel Itch has been Haley Mack, PR Director for the Wyoming Office of Tourism. Thank you, Haley, for joining us on Travel Itch.
It's been so much fun. Thank you, Dan.
Viewers, that's it for this edition of Travel Itch Radio. This is your host and writer, Dan Schlossberg, saying thank you for your time this time. Until next time, next week, just in time for Veterans Day, we'll journey to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and talk with Edna Wagner about the real 6888, the all-female, all-black unit that pulled off a postal miracle in the middle of World War II. For now, good night and stay safe.